Welcome to Caregiver SOS On Air, presented by the WellMed Charitable Foundation, with nationally known gerontologist Carol Zernial and award-winning veteran broadcaster Ron Aaron. This program provides health, wellness, and other information for caregivers who are vital to the health and well-being of so many people across our country. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Aaron and Carol Zernial.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. Our podcast available wherever you get your podcast, and we're also on the radio in several markets in Texas and Florida as well. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here, and Carol has a master's degree in social gerontology, over 30 years experience in the field. She's co-chair of the Raise Family Caregiving Advisory Council and executive director of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. And Carol, it is great to be with you.
It's nice to be with you, Ron.
We're going to be talking about Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E, S-I-M-P-L-E, title of a book that we'll tell you how to get a hold of. But you know what? Senior living isn't always simple, is it?
Well, I think I probably said that about 5 times in the past week. There's no limit to the number of things that can go sideways when you're working with older adults or you're a caregiver. There's always new things to learn, better ways of doing things. That's the good news. And thank goodness we have someone like Shari Ross who's going to tell us really how to keep it simple.
Well, Shari is the author of Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E, creator of its companion workbook and toolkit, designed to help families approach the senior living journey with confidence. She's a graduate of NYU and a seasoned sales specialist with over a decade of experience guiding families through important life transitions, of which we all have. Shari empowers families to make informed senior living decisions and move forward with confidence, dignity, and peace of mind. That's quite a promise, Shari. Great to have you on.
Hey, Dan, how are you? This is just my pleasure to be here with you and Carol. So thank you for having me. I think you are spreading a wonderful message, and I hope to do the same here with you.
What is it that got you interested in trying to assist seniors in living?
So honestly, it wasn't one thing. It was a bunch of different things. I worked in senior living as a sales specialist for over a decade. And what inspired me was that day after day, I'd have families sitting across from me at the table who had come in, and maybe, their mom had fallen, or maybe their dad had wandered outside, and, maybe the hospital had just told them, you can't take your mom home anymore. And suddenly, these families are sitting across from me in tears, just faced with these massive decisions they were not remotely prepared for. And so I started to notice these patterns, and they'd all say the same things. We don't know where to start. We don't know what questions to ask. We feel like we're failing. And I'd spend hours walking them through this whole process, explaining different levels of care, answering questions about cost, preparing them for what to look for on tours, and then even coaching them on how to have hard conversations with their siblings, oftentimes, who didn't agree with them. So after repeating many, many times the same guidance, it finally clicked that, why should families have to wait until they're in crisis mode? With panic in their eyes to get this information. And I wish that they just had a guidebook, something practical, clear, that they could use long before things reached that point. And that's how this book, Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E, came to life. And
Carol, you shared a wonderful story about your mom and dad when the time really came for your mom to be put into an institution, and how your dad initially resisted it.
Well, that's right. My mother had Alzheimer's, and we didn't think it was the right place to be at home anymore. She had a lot of behavior issues. And so he was against it until someone like Shari told him, if you place your wife, you get to be the husband again. You don't have to be the caregiver. You get to show up, you get to spend time, relax, and you get to be her true love again. And that's exactly what happened. They would walk in the facility and hold hands, and she was always happy to see him. It was really a remarkable change. So those decisions change lives. I mean, a good decision, a good fit is so important.
So how do you know when it's time, Shari, when you really need to make that decision, as Carol's family did?
Oh boy. Well, there's quite a few telltale signs that you could look for. First of all, I mean, Alzheimer's disease or dementia care, that's a whole separate subject of things to look for versus somebody who's just really needing more support and should maybe not be left alone in the home alone. So I would say that, say you're going to visit a parent in their home and you're noticing that their refrigerator is, has one ketchup packet and a spoiled pot roast in there from, another year. Maybe that's a good sign. Maybe you notice that they're kind of wobbling down the hallway and there's no, rails or support, or maybe there's things on the floor that could be a tripping hazard. Maybe you see that their medications haven't been taken for quite some days, or they're skipped, or you're hearing from their doctor maybe that they haven't shown up for the last 2 appointments. Maybe you see mail piling up on the table and it's unopened, and you go through it and you're like, oh, wow, there are some very overdue bills here that need to be paid. So there's definitely signals. You might notice your loved one just kind of isolating, sitting at home, watching TV with the windows down, dark in the house, and they're not getting out. Perhaps they stopped driving, so they just can't go anywhere on their own unless they know how to use an Uber, or maybe they've lost that motivation to even do anything. So this is where we want to say, okay, how can we improve your quality of life, and how can we improve your safety and your health? And this would be a good time to start looking at other options other than the home.
We're going to come right back to you. You get me laughing, thinking of my late mother trying to use an Uber. That would never happen. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here, and we have our very special guest with us, Shari Ross, and we're talking about Senior Living Made Simple. That's her book. We'll tell you how to get it. You're listening to Caregiver SOS on air. So, Shari, we were talking about when it comes time for your loved one, if you're the caregiver, to have them put into an institution, for example. How do you have that conversation?
Well, first of all, I would definitely not start with the word institution. I would start with the word assisted living or community or apartment. We want to stay far away from using terminology that might scare off our loved ones, like facility or old folks home or nursing home, because that's just not what is out there anymore. Nowadays, it is different. There are assisted living, beautiful communities where, they have the most amazing amenities. And let's start right there with making sure we're using the right words to not scare them. But the other thing is we want to have conversations that don't start with "you need to," because walls are going to go up immediately. What I've seen work best is to start from love, not control. So instead of directives, you want to try gentle openings, kind of like, "Mom, I love you. I worry about you being alone at night. Can we talk about ways to make you feel safer?" Or, "It would give me so much peace of mind if we could put a plan in writing together." Things like that. Or, "I want to make sure your wishes are honored. Can we talk about what's most important to you?" So, another tool is just use stories, saying like, "I heard about a friend's mom who's moving into a community is actually busier than ever. She loves it. What do you think about that?" It takes the pressure off the parent, and it shows that they're not being singled out, and it paints a more positive picture of what support can look like. I always absolutely think number one thing is bring your parent or your loved one to a community just for lunch. Don't tour. Don't do the whole sales process. Just go and have lunch, try the food, sit down, meet with a couple of other residents there, get this idea in their head that maybe it's not so scary.
And most facilities will let you do that?
They will, yes. I mean, you want to make an appointment ahead of time and just say, "Hey, I want to bring my mom or dad or my spouse in and just, have lunch, check it out. No pressure. I don't want to do a sales walk today."
And you've got a lot of facilities, you've got choices between an independent living where like you're talking about, you're getting an apartment and you can have services brought in, or assisted living where they're really providing more care, and they may exist in the same place so that you've got a couple of levels.
In fact, most communities now have independent living, and then they have assisted living where they also have the same exact type of apartment layout, beautiful apartments, but you have in-house care, whether that's doctors on site or nurses 24/7 or caregivers. And then you also have memory care oftentimes within that same building that's on a separate floor, that's secured, so you can't, just walk in and out. And in addition, a lot of assisted living communities now have a program specifically built for those with mild cognitive impairment. So there's that in between where they still need some assistance, but they don't need to be in a secured memory care community type environments. That can be scary if you're not ready for it.
Will most of those have nursing care as well when you reach that stage?
Well, so the difference is that in an independent living, you're not getting that, caregiving, what you would say nursing care, but in assisted living, you do. And as at different levels of care, whatever your needs are, whether it's just standby assistance or help with bathing, grooming, dressing, escorting around, taking medications. And then memory care, same thing. You're getting the same exact physical help, but now you also have this extra level of cognitive help, where it's just a smaller environment. You're getting a lot more interaction with the staff and the caregivers, and very specialized activities that are specific for dementia and memory loss.
Well, and so what would be a qualification for a skilled nursing if you were going to go into more like a skilled nursing facility?
A nursing home, right. A skilled nursing or a nursing home, you want to think about as needing more acute care. So say you have a fall and you go into the hospital, and then from the hospital after a surgery, let's say, you go into a skilled nursing or rehab facility. And that is where you may stay anywhere from, a few days to a few months. It also depends on your insurance plan, what they will allow you to stay for. But typically that's more acute rehab where you're getting daily rehabilitation sessions. And then you would from there move into something like an assisted living where you oftentimes can continue rehab, maybe not on a daily basis, but they typically will have a gym there with physical therapists and occupational therapists, and you can continue that rehab therapy and exercise.
Now, we're going to talk in just a moment about what is the elephant in the room, and that's cost, because none of this is inexpensive. I hesitate to use the word cheap. I'm Ron Aaron. You're listening to Caregiver SOS On Air. Shari Ross is our special guest. Her book is all about Senior Living Made Simple. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here. You're listening to Caregiver SOS On Air. Well, thank you so much for listening to Caregiver SOS On Air. We're delighted to have you with us. We come to you every week with a discussion of an issue, a problem, some accomplishments involved in caregiving with more than 60 million caregivers across this country, but most thinking they are the Lone Rangers. We try to bring you the latest information and help that can make that job easier and more manageable. Caregiver SOS On Air takes a look at trends across this country. We provide tips on how to be a better caregiver, and most importantly, where you can go for help. On Caregiver SOS On Air, we try to give you what you need to make that caregiving manageable and to provide you with the help that can make your life easier. I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernial and I are delighted to co-host this program, and we're thrilled you've joined us on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air podcasts available everywhere, brought to you by WellMed Charitable Foundation.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Really good to see you once again.
Oh, we are so pleased you're sticking with us right here on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. Our podcast available wherever you get your podcast. We're also on the radio in several markets in Texas and Florida as well. Shari Ross, our special guest, we're talking about Senior Living Made Simple, which is the acronym in her book. Carol Zernial, our co-host, is here. I'm Ron Aaron. So, Shari, all of this sounds great if you can get into an assisted living or independent living, but the cost can be astronomical, and so few people had the wisdom to take out insurance when they were young. It's too expensive to take out when you're older. How do you pay for it?
You're absolutely right. This is one of the biggest burdens on families because it is so expensive and it's very intimidating. You want to look at it, actually, you kind of want to compare costs of what would it cost to stay in the home with a caregiver coming in or multiple caregivers 24/7 perhaps, and fixing up the home so that it's safe, adding a bar in the bathroom or putting a stair chair in or, all these modifications, right? Then you're still dealing with having food and utilities and all of the things that it costs to live in a home. So you want to take that and compare to when you go into a community or assisted living, you're getting all of those things without having to deal with the house and a mortgage and a property tax and insurance and food and transportation. And so it almost becomes kind of apple to apple. A lot of people don't realize that, but on the other side of things, how to pay for it. Like you said, a lot of people do not have long-term care insurance. They don't sell policies the way they used to, unfortunately. And so there's a very few people who have it. That is a wonderful way to pay, though. Private funds come in, like savings, pensions, retirement accounts, if you have one. If you need to sell a house, that's the way to go to. You can, do tricky things with your house, like taking out equity or doing kind of there's all different, there's some
Like
tricky things you might
a
want to
reverse
a reverse
mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. VA benefits. If you're a veteran, your spouse is a veteran, make sure to look into VA benefits because those are amazing programs that if you do the application carefully, you can actually get quite a good amount of money for each month. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of places that take Medicare and Medicaid. As we know, the assisted livings are all private pay.
And Medicare won't pay for it anyhow.
They won't, no. So you want to think of like Medicaid paying for like a nursing home stay or a rehab stay, or Medicare will pay for that. There are some places out there, they're a little bit less desirable, more nursing home feel to it, but they will accept Medicaid after you've basically gotten rid of all of your assets. They'll continue to take Medicaid. You can also do, life insurance conversions. I would say the biggest thing to take away from this is plan early. If you can start looking ahead, you can compare costs and tour communities and choose what fits your family needs and your budget. Because if you wait until after a fall or a hospital stay, you're forced in this very quick, emotional, and sometimes very expensive decisions.
So when you were in sales, as you sat across that table, I kind of think of the auto salesperson with luxury automobiles. You have to qualify that buyer. And as folks are talking about and they're sold on your institution, your assisted retirement living facility,
community,
how do you qualify them in your mind without saying, you're not going to be able to come here?
You know what? I just took a very more friendly personal approach. And I just said, you know what, this is what it is monthly. This is what it is to move in. Is this within your budget? And they'll know, they'll tell you right away, like, nope, this is not going to work for me. And then I try to give them other options, less expensive places to potentially visit. But I also give them options of what to do. Like, have you thought about selling your home? Let me put you in touch with somebody who can help you with that. Or let's look at, what can your family do to support you in any way? Can they contribute at all? So, it isn't black and white, but it's also not like, if they say, no, I cannot afford this, they can't afford it. And you can't push and you can't make it happen. It's just what it is. But you have to just give them all the options, lay it out there, compare costs of what it would be if they stayed home or went to XYZ place and let them have those tools.
Now, I know there are a lot of myths about assisted living, independent living, all kinds of reasons folks don't want to go there. What are some of those big myths and how do you debunk them?
Yeah, I think the biggest myth I hear all the time is that assisted living is like the old nursing homes that we used to picture or that our parents used to picture, kind of sterile hallways, people lined up in wheelchairs, just, head down, drooling,
A lot of smell
no
of urine.
life, horrible smells. Yeah. And honestly, that image is very outdated now. Today's assisted living communities are very vibrant and social, and they're specifically designed to support a good quality of life. You've got residents that are doing yoga, going to painting workshops, enjoying live music, having happy hour. It's not about warehousing people and, just letting them sit there waiting to die. It's about giving them the right amount of support so that they can thrive. And I actually, another big misconception is that moving your parent or your loved one means that you're failing as a caregiver. I see adult children carrying so much guilt, like they're abandoning their loved ones. But the real truth is that, the most loving choice you can make is you're giving access to your parent of 24-hour care, safety, meals, social connection. And those are things that, their home can't always provide. And you're giving yourself back the role of son or daughter or spouse or friend instead of being, stuck in this role of full-time nurse or caregiver.
Well, one of the things that's changed, I think, from when I started in my career is it's really, waiting to that last second to make that decision or work with your loved ones to make that decision. Someone who moves in, even with Alzheimer's, someone who moves in earlier, higher functioning, more social, they're going to get acclimated to living there. They're going to get to know the facility, know their way around, and probably going to be more successful. And so we as children get really scared as opposed to, now's a good time to think about those different places that you might want to live, what kind of lifestyle. And it sure helps the children too, if we can all have this discussion when we're a little more engaged as a family.
Absolutely. I actually had my mom sit down with me at the kitchen counter and we spent the whole Saturday afternoon, over coffee, and we put together a binder of all her end of life wishes and her who was her POA for medical and health, and put together all this paperwork, this legal paperwork, medical paperwork, just because it's just, a step in the right direction to help plan, to help make things calmer when potentially an emergency occurs. Now you got your ducks in a row. So just preparation is so, so key.
And what if
Well,
they
so
don't
you,
want to do that?
What if they don't want to do that?
What if they don't
Keep
want to have that
prodding.
conversation?
It's hard. I mean, yeah, some people don't, but I think that maybe if you put it on, like, let's just physically get this paperwork together, instead of more the feelings or the emotional side of it, to just make it that way. And sometimes that's more successful, but you got to put a little pin in their head and just keep on working towards this conversation that you want to have. It's not going to happen in one day. You got to do it little by little.
so we've talked about different facilities and the need to plan. What are people going to find in your book?
Yeah, so my book basically starts with the simple method. It's a framework of how to walk through this whole process with your loved one. So each letter of simple is a word. So S is for support. You have to have a support system around you. I is for information, gathering up that information of what's out there and what things cost and all of those important things. M is for matching, making sure that you're matching your loved one's needs and desires and personality to the specific place that they're going. Just because a place looks gorgeous and has chandeliers and cookies in the lobby doesn't mean it's the right match for them. They might need something smaller. They might need something just in a different, that has more specific care going on. So match appropriately. Then P is for preparation, like we just talked about. Prepare, get your legal documents, your medical documents in order, get it all together so you're ready to go. L is for letting go of guilt, letting go, knowing that you're doing what you can do and it's okay. And don't put it so much on yourself to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. This is messy. So let go of that. And then E is for engagement. So once a loved one moves into a community, engage with them, make sure that they're engaging, talk to them, see what they're doing, see what activities they're up to, make sure that you're enjoying meals with them, just continue engaging with them, but now on the level of being a daughter or son or wife or husband, not as a caregiver.
Now
So
you also have
that's,
you've got a workbook and a toolkit.
yeah,
Very quickly.
yeah.
What are those?
Yeah, so the workbook goes hand in hand with the book. Each chapter talks about a different component of senior living and how to get through this whole process. And the workbook gives you all sorts of checklists and journal prompts to go hand in hand with all of those topics so that you can move through the whole process in a more organized, calm, less chaotic way.
And where do we get your book?
So you can order on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNobles.com, Goodreads, all over anywhere you can buy books.
Senior Living Made Simple. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Shari Ross, I'm Ron Aaron. Carol Zernial, another one in the pot, as they say. Thank you so much for joining us today on the award-winning Caregiver SOS On Air. The executive producer for Caregiver SOS On Air is Daniel Calderon. The producer is Sharice Pendleton. And the associate producer is Catherine Oglesby. We'll see you next week on Caregiver SOS On Air.
You've been listening to Caregiver SOS On Air, an exclusive presentation of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. We welcome emails with suggestions and comments on this program at radio@wellmed.net. Join co-hosts Carol Zernial and Ron Aaron next week for more on caregiving, improving the health and well-being of caregivers and their care recipients everywhere. For more on caregiving and podcasts of our programs, visit caregiversos.org.